I'm not sure it reeks of corruption. I think that it's not a bad board. It could be a lot worse. The initial impression was that it was very short, in fact had zero aviation skills on it other than John Lamola himself, who's the current acting CEO and chairperson of SAA. It turns out, though, that there is at least some skills, and particularly in one or two really important areas. Most notably, Dumisani Sangweni has a nice skill set in that he's had a couple of years at SAA looking after two absolutely key and very complex functions, notably networking and alliances. So that's a really key growth area for the airline. I think that holds a lot of promise. One or two other board members, notably Fatima Gyani, have got a very good reputation in regards being opposed to corruption. She's already on the ESCOM board. So I can't say that I'm as skeptical or as negative about the new board as NUMSA certainly is. But I think it's important to bear in mind that this is very much an interim board. It's a holding board, if you like, it's a board while the whole airline is in a sort of a holding pattern, waiting to land the Takatso deal. I think it's telling that there are quite a strong representation on the board from, let's call it mergers and acquisition specialists. And that would tell me or suggest to me that the DPE is in fact still pushing ahead with the Takatso deal. There are some of us, me included, who was beginning to wonder whether the Takatso deal would ever happen. The DPE is showing that it seems to be determined to make it go ahead. So all in all, it's not a bad board, could be a lot worse.
And of course, your sentiments are also shared by the minister. Why do you think NUMSA has said that, they are a bit skeptical of this board, especially pertaining to the fact that they are saying it was done in secret and there was no consultation here? What do you make of those comments?
I think they're very valid criticisms because the problem with SAA is that it is literally shrouded in secrecy. From where I look as a close observer and have been doing so for the last 15 years, it's extraordinary how much fog there is around the whole SAA deal. It's scary how close the DPE is playing its cards to its chest. It doesn't give the public, the taxpayers who are funding this disaster, any confidence at all. And let me point out that it just reinforces my own suspicions that the DPE has not been honest and open with us when it says, look, it promised that the deal would be done by the end of March. That was 3 weeks ago nearly. So already it's missed that deadline. Trevor, it was already promising that it would now complete it in 4 months. That's also not going to happen because, as I see it, there are regulatory and legal requirements that are going to take at least another year, if not 18 months, to get right. So I don't see this deal happening anytime fast or soon. And I think that DPE, the Department of Public Enterprises, is trying to sort of fudge this over, which is leading to this very justified, at least skepticism, if not outright derision, from organizations like NUMSA, which is well placed.
All right, Guy, I'm also now going to bring in a clip from the former Minister of Tourism. Of course, he is now the interim board chairperson of SAA. Let's take a quick listen to what he had to say a bit earlier on when it comes to the new appointment, especially for SAA.
Believe in SAA and that we are able to get it back to where it was before. It's going to be a long road, but it is on the road to recovery as we speak. So, it comes with an incredible past, an incredible reputation, and I think it's up to us to expand it now and let it grow and to get it back to where it was before.
And Guy, do you think that, you've told us a whole list of, positives about, and of course then the negatives here. Do you also then feel that you share the same attributes here, just like Derek Hanekom, that, you are quite confident that things can be turned around here at SAA, even with all the challenges it faces?
Well, I have to say as politely as possible that I think Derek Hanekom has reverted to his role as Minister of Agriculture by making a statement like that, and that he's growing something extremely strange. There's no chance that SAA is going to ever be back to what it was. There's no point in looking at what it was. It's lost so much in the last 10 years, and that means it's lost so much ground to the foreign carriers. Locally, of course, it's completely now nowhere after having Fly South Air and Airlink and Semair step into the local domestic market and take up the space that it left, also with Mango, of course. And internationally, it's really completely had its lunch eaten because it's 3 years down the line since it went into business rescue, and it still hasn't been started to compete on or fly the long-haul routes. So the other airlines have completely moved in and taken up the market. And quite frankly, they have a much better product with newer aircraft from a passenger's point of view. They've got better in-flight entertainment. The aircraft are much more fuel efficient, which means that they can pass on significant savings to the passengers. So SAA is not going to be able to compete on long-haul routes until it replaces its fleet. And even then, it's got no real routes to fly. Vianney Johana, that was the previous CEO about 4 or 5 years ago, told me that SAA was not making any money on any of its routes east of Dubai or the Middle East because it can't compete against the Middle East 3 carriers. It wasn't making money on the long-haul routes to the United States. It was making a bit of money on the European routes. But now it's so far behind on those routes that it'll take years for it ever to catch up. So my view is that the most SAA can hope for is to recover to being a reasonably strong regional carrier. And it's probably a good thing that it's looking to form alliances, or not more than just an alliance, but a real partnership with Kenyan Airways, KQ, because that'll enable it to really extend its reach that much further. Of course, it could have chosen a better partner than Kenyan Airways because KQ is in just as bad a position as SAA is. It's losing a fortune, $500 million at the last financial. So it's a really poor or weak partner to get to bed with.
And how long do you think this interim board may be around for? Some have criticized it, saying that because of the debt issues that the carrier faces, and Takatso Consortium saying that it will only take over once it's stabilized, how long do you think this board will be around for?
Well, as I said earlier, my expectation is that it's going to take another year to 18 months for the regulatory hurdles to be overcome. Funnily enough, the airline is not doing that badly. It's had a couple of small wins. Most notably, it managed to free up some of the blocked funds that have been held, particularly in Angola, Zimbabwe, and I believe Nigeria. That's been quite a little injection for its cash flow. And because, to give it credit where credit is due, it's been very cautious in expanding or getting back into the air. So it's really flying a really small airline with, literally 6 aircraft left these days. It hasn't had a chance to really get it badly wrong and blow a lot of taxpayers' money. But the reality is that the projections going forward, quite frankly, look unrealistic. They assume a massive growth in revenue, which is just not going to happen. I think it's just wishful thinking. And at the same time, it's looking at a 2.5 billion rand cash burn or negative cash flow. If you add that to the 2.5 billion rand of debt that it still carries, us taxpayers are going to, it looks like we're going to be in for 5 billion rand before the airline gets stable enough to be appetizing or appealing for the Takatso Consortium. So I think that we still have to continue to question why government is so committed to this airline. There's very little reason to justify the vanity project that is a flag carrier at these sort of costs.